Thomas Arinze gripped the handlebars of the battered motorcycle, his designer watch hidden beneath a torn sleeve as he watched the young woman count crumpled naira notes at the market stall. In 3 hours, he would return to his glass office overlooking Lagos, where billion naira deals waited for his signature. But right now, he was just another struggling Okada rider begging for help. "Please, sister," he called out, affecting the weary voice of a man who hadn't eaten in days. "I need fuel money to take my sick mother to the hospital. Anything you can spare." Most people had walked past him that morning. Some had cursed him for blocking their path. Others had looked through him as if he didn't exist. But Sophia Chioma stopped. She studied his face with genuine concern, then looked at the small pile of money she'd earned selling tomatoes and peppers since dawn. Without hesitation, she pulled out a 5,000 naira note, nearly half her day's earnings, and pressed it into his palm. "Take this, brother," she said softly. "I will pray your mother gets better." Thomas stared at the money, his throat tight with unexpected emotion. In his real life, people threw millions at him hoping for favors. Board members laughed too loudly at his jokes. Women competed for his attention with designer dresses and perfect smiles. But this market trader, whose calloused hand spoke of honest labor, had just given him something infinitely more valuable. "God bless you," he whispered, meaning every word. As Sophia turned back to her stall, Thomas made a decision that would change both their lives. He pulled out his phone, careful to shield the expensive device, and transferred 10 million naira to the account of the children's hospital she'd mentioned helping last week. Let someone else's mother get the treatment she needed. 3 days later, Sophia's phone rang just as she was closing her stall. "Sister Sophia." The voice was frantic. "This is Nurse Janet from General Hospital. That Okada man you helped, he's asking for you. He's very sick." Sophia's heart lurched. She grabbed her purse and ran to the roadside, flagging down the first motorcycle taxi she could find. At the hospital, she found Thomas lying on a bed in the emergency ward, looking pale and weak. "You came," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Of course I came. What happened to you?" "Accident. No money for treatment." He grimaced as he shifted position. "But I wanted to tell you something. That day at the market, you saved my life in more ways than you know." Sophia squeezed his hand. "Don't talk like that. You're going to be fine." "Sister, I need to ask you something crazy." Thomas looked directly into her eyes. "My family is having a wedding celebration next week in our village. My mother keeps asking when I'm bringing a good woman home. The truth is, I've never met anyone like you." Sophia blinked in confusion. "What are you saying? Would you come with me? As my girlfriend? I know it sounds mad, but I'll pay you 10,000 naira for the weekend. I just need my family to stop treating me like a failure because I drive Okada in Lagos." The request hung in the air between them. Sophia thought of her own mother's constant complaints about her unmarried status, the way relatives whispered about her approaching 30 without a husband. "Your family won't accept an ordinary market trader," she said finally. "They will if they think I'm happy. And honestly," Thomas's voice grew stronger, "I haven't felt this happy in years, not since I met you." Something in his eyes made Sophia's heart skip. Maybe it was foolish, but this kind man who worried about his sick mother deserved better than loneliness. "Okay," she said, "I'll come with you." Thomas smiled for the first time since she'd known him, and Sophia wondered what she'd just agreed to. The dusty road to Thomas's village stretched endlessly ahead as their commercial bus bounced over potholes. Sophia adjusted her best dress, a simple blue fabric she'd bought for church, and tried to calm her nerves. Beside her, Thomas looked different somehow. Gone was the desperate Okada rider from the hospital. His posture was straighter, his voice more confident as he spoke to other passengers. "Are you nervous?" he asked quietly. "Should I be?" Thomas smiled mysteriously. "My family can be complicated. Just remember, you're a businesswoman from Lagos. You sell goods in the market, but you're planning to expand. And we've been dating for 6 months." "6 months?" Sophia raised an eyebrow. "What else should I know about our fake relationship? We met when you needed a ride to the hospital for your aunt. I was the Okada rider who helped you that night." The lie came so smoothly that Sophia wondered how much practice he'd had at deception. But before she could ask more questions, the bus pulled into a small village dominated by a large family compound with several modern buildings. "Welcome to my family home," Thomas said, shouldering both their bags. Sophia's mouth fell open. The compound was enormous, with a main house that looked like something from a Nollywood movie about wealthy families. Cars filled the parking area: Toyota Camrys, a few SUVs, and one gleaming Mercedes-Benz. "Thomas, this is your family house? My cousin is getting married tomorrow. Everyone came home for the celebration." He grabbed her hand. "Remember, we're in love." Before Sophia could process what she was seeing, a woman in expensive lace emerged from the main building. Her jewelry caught the afternoon sunlight as she approached with arms wide open. "My son, you finally came home." The woman embraced Thomas warmly, then turned expectant eyes to Sophia. "And this must be the special lady we've heard nothing about." "Mama, this is Sophia." "Sophia, my mother." "Good afternoon, Ma." Sophia bowed respectfully, but Thomas's mother was already studying her with sharp eyes that missed nothing, from her simple dress to her worn handbag. "She's pretty," the older woman said, as if Sophia couldn't hear. "But Thomas, we need to talk privately." "Later, Mama. Let me show Sophia where she'll sleep first." As they walked toward the guest quarters, Sophia whispered urgently, "You didn't tell me your family was wealthy. Look at this place." "It's not my money," Thomas said quickly. "My cousin Richard is the successful one. He owns a construction company. That's his Mercedes." "Thomas," a deep voice boomed across the courtyard. A tall man in a designer shirt strode toward them, grinning widely. "Little cousin finally decided to visit." Richard embraced Thomas with the kind of backslapping hug that spoke of genuine affection. His eyes immediately went to Sophia with obvious appreciation. "And who is this beautiful woman?" "Richard, meet Sophia. Sophia, this is my cousin Richard, the one I told you about. The market trader from Lagos." Richard's smile was warm but assessing. "Thomas mentioned you on the phone. Very impressive business you're building." "Thank you," Sophia managed, wondering what exactly Thomas had said about her. "Richard, is that voice I hear?" Another woman appeared, elegant, polished, wearing the kind of gold jewelry that cost more than Sophia earned in 6 months. She moved with the confidence of someone who'd never worried about money. Thomas went rigid beside her. "Emma." "Hello, Thomas." Emma's smile was sharp as a blade. "It's been, what, 5 years? You two know each other?" Sophia felt the tension crackling between them. "Oh yes," Emma laughed, a sound like broken glass. "Thomas and I were quite close once. Before I married Richard, of course. Before I realized what kind of man could actually take care of a woman." The silence stretched uncomfortably. Richard looked confused. Thomas's mother appeared interested, and Sophia suddenly understood that she'd walked into something much more complicated than a simple family gathering. "Isn't that interesting?" Emma continued, her eyes glittering with malice. "Thomas bringing home another woman who doesn't know what she's getting into." The evening air grew thick with tension as the family gathered for dinner in the main house. Sophia sat beside Thomas at the long table, acutely aware that every eye was on her. The questions had started immediately. "So, Sophia," Thomas's mother said, cutting into her rice, "what exactly do you sell in this market?" "Tomatoes, peppers, onions. Basic foodstuffs, Ma." "And your family? What do they do?" Sophia felt heat rise in her cheeks. "My father was a teacher before he passed. My mother sells palm oil." Emma's laugh tinkled across the table. "How humble." "There's nothing wrong with honest work," Thomas said firmly, but Sophia noticed he wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. Richard leaned forward with genuine interest. "Thomas mentioned you're expanding your business. That takes real vision." Yes, I hope to open a small shop someday." "With what capital?" Emma's question was innocent enough, but her tone cut like a knife. "These market ventures require serious money." "Emma," Richard warned quietly, "I'm just curious how Thomas plans to help her. After all, what can an Okada rider contribute to business expansion?" The table fell silent. Sophia felt every gaze on her face, watching for her reaction. She looked at Thomas, waiting for him to defend himself, to explain, to say anything that would make this less humiliating. Instead, he stared at his plate. "Thomas works very hard," Sophia said finally. "He's honest and kind. That matters more than money." "Does it?" Emma's smile was razor-sharp. "Tell me, Sophia, has Thomas shown you where he lives in Lagos? His apartment?" We haven't been together that long." "Of course not, because there's nothing to show." Emma turned to the rest of the family. "Should I tell her, or will you, Thomas?" "Emma, stop." Richard's voice carried warning. "Tell me what?" Sophia's heart was pounding. Thomas finally looked up, his eyes filled with something that looked like panic. "Sophia, He doesn't have an apartment," Emma announced triumphantly. "He sleeps wherever he can find space, sometimes in motor parks, sometimes under bridges. I've seen him looking exactly like what he is, a failed man who couldn't even finish secondary school." The words hit Sophia like physical blows. She turned to Thomas, searching his face for denial, for explanation, for anything that would make Emma's words untrue. "Is this real?" she whispered. "Sophia, let me explain." "You lied to me." Her voice was barely audible. "Everything you told me was a lie." "Not everything." Thomas reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "My feelings for you are real." "Your feelings?" Emma's laughter filled the room. "Thomas, you can't afford feelings. You can barely afford food." "That's enough." Thomas's voice exploded across the table, silencing everyone. "Emma, you made your choice 5 years ago. You left me because I was poor, and you married Richard for his money. Fine, but don't pretend you know anything about what I feel now. I know you're still the same pathetic boy who used to beg me for bus fare." Sophia stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Every eye turned to her, Thomas's family watching like spectators at a boxing match, waiting to see who would fall first. "Excuse me," she said quietly, "I need some air." She walked out of the dining room with as much dignity as she could manage, but once she reached the garden, her composure cracked. She'd been so stupid. A kind Okada rider who just happened to need a fake girlfriend. A man who somehow had money for hospital bills but slept under bridges. Behind her she heard footsteps and Thomas's voice calling her name. She didn't turn around. "Sophia, please, let me explain." "Explain what?" She spun to face him, tears threatening. "That you've been lying since the day we met. That I'm just another joke for your ex-girlfriend to laugh about. You're not a joke. You're the first real thing that's happened to me in years." "Real?" Sophia's voice broke. "Nothing about this is real, Thomas. Starting with your name." His face went white, and Sophia knew she'd guessed correctly. Thomas stood frozen in the garden, watching Sophia's face crumble as the weight of his deception settled between them. The wedding celebration continued in the distance, but all he could hear was the sound of his own heart breaking. "My name is Thomas," he said quietly. That part was true. But everything else was a lie. Sophia wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I should have known. No Okada rider carries the kind of phone you have. No poor man speaks English the way you do." "Sophia, please. Who are you really?" Before Thomas could answer, car headlights swept across the compound. A convoy of black SUVs pulled through the gates, followed by a sleek Mercedes that made Richard's car look ordinary. The wedding celebration fell silent as uniformed drivers emerged, opening doors for men in expensive suits. "What's happening?" Sophia whispered. Thomas's face had gone pale. "They're not supposed to be here yet." "Who's not supposed to be here?" The lead SUV's door opened and a man stepped out, tall, commanding, wearing the kind of watch that cost more than most people's annual salary. He looked around the compound until his eyes found Thomas. "Ogre Thomas," he called out, his voice carrying clearly across the yard. "We've been looking everywhere for you." The wedding guests began gathering, murmuring among themselves. Richard emerged from the house, his face confused. Emma appeared beside him, her mouth falling open as she recognized the expensive convoy. "Who are these people?" Richard asked no one in particular. The man in the expensive suit approached Thomas with obvious deference. "Sir, we have urgent matters requiring your signature. The Abuja deal cannot wait until Monday." Chief Amadi, Thomas said quietly, I told you I was taking the weekend off. Chief Amadi? Richard's voice cracked. The local government chairman. What is he doing here? Actually, Chief Amadi said, turning to address the growing crowd, I should ask what all of you are doing at Thomas Arinze's family gathering without proper invitation. Thomas Arinze. Emma stepped forward, her confidence wavering. You mean the Thomas Arinze? From Eagle Transport Group? Sophia's world tilted. Eagle Transport Group. Nigeria's largest logistics company. She'd seen their trucks on every major highway, their logo on billboards across Lagos. The owner was rumored to be one of the youngest billionaires in West Africa. The same, Chief Amadi confirmed, though he prefers his privacy, as you all should know. That's impossible, Emma said, but her voice had lost its earlier sharpness. Thomas is… He was what? Another voice joined the conversation. A second man emerged from the convoy, older, more distinguished, wearing traditional agbada that cost more than most people's cars. Please, tell us what Thomas was. Richard immediately recognized him and dropped to one knee. Elder Johnson. Sir, we had no idea you were coming. Stand up, my boy. I came as soon as Thomas's security team told me where he was. Elder Johnson's eyes swept the assembled crowd. It seems my business partner has been playing one of his games again. Business partner? Sophia found her voice at last. Thomas owns 60% of my construction company, Richard said slowly, as if the words were foreign to him. He's been the silent investor behind all my contracts for the past 3 years. The pieces clicked into place for Emma. Her face went through a series of emotions, disbelief, recognition, and finally horror at what she'd said during dinner. But he was driving Okada, she whispered. I saw him myself, looking desperate. He does that sometimes, Chief Amadi explained with obvious fondness. Tests people's character when they think he has nothing to offer. Very effective method for identifying genuine friends. Sophia felt the ground shifting beneath her feet. Every moment of their relationship replayed in her mind. His concern for his sick mother, the money he'd given her, the way he'd spoken about business expansion, as if he actually understood it. The hospital bill, she said suddenly. You paid for your own treatment. Thomas finally met her eyes. Among other things. How much? Her voice was barely a whisper. How much did you pay me to come here? 10,000 naira, Thomas said quietly. And how much is 10,000 naira to Thomas Arinze of Eagle Transport Group? The silence stretched until Chief Amadi answered for him. About what you or I might spend on a bottle of water. The compound erupted in chaos. Emma fell to her knees, begging Thomas for forgiveness. Richard stood speechless, realizing his entire business empire existed at his cousin's mercy. Thomas's mother rushed forward, demanding to know why her son had hidden his success from the family. But Thomas only had eyes for Sophia. She stood apart from the commotion, her face a mask of hurt and confusion. When their eyes met across the crowd, she turned and walked toward the compound gates. Sophia, wait. Thomas pushed through the gathering, ignoring Chief Amadi's protests about urgent business matters. Let me go, Thomas. Or whatever your real name is. My name is Thomas Arinze. Everything else, yes, I lied about that. But not about how I feel. Sophia stopped walking, but didn't turn around. How you feel? You paid me 10,000 naira to pretend to be your girlfriend. To you, that's pocket change. To me, it was a fortune. Do you understand how that makes me feel? Like I was buying you. Thomas's voice cracked. I know how it looks. You don't know anything. Now she did turn, and the pain in her eyes cut him deeper than Emma's cruelest words ever had. I gave you 5,000 naira, half my day's earnings, because I thought you needed help. You probably spend more than that on lunch. I transferred 10 million to the children's hospital that same day because you inspired me to help someone's mother get treatment. Sophia blinked. What? Everything you made me feel was real. The kindness you showed a stranger, the way you worried about my fake sick mother, the way you held my hand in the hospital. No one has ever cared about me like that without knowing who I am. But you knew exactly who you were. You knew I was falling for a lie. Thomas stepped closer, his voice desperate. I was falling too. For the first time in my life, someone looked at me and saw a person worth caring about, not a bank account worth accessing. Behind them, the chaos continued. Chief Amadi was trying to restore order. Richard was attempting to salvage his dignity. Emma was still begging for forgiveness that would never come. You want to know the truth about Emma? Thomas continued. She left me when I had nothing, literally nothing. I was working 3 jobs just to afford school fees, and she decided she deserved better. She married Richard using information about my business plans that she stole from my computer. Sophia's eyes widened. She what? Richard thinks he's a genius businessman, but every successful contract he's ever won came from my connections. I've been secretly supporting him because he's family, but his wife built her comfortable life on my stolen ideas. Why didn't you tell me any of this? Because I wanted you to choose me for who I am, not what I can provide. Thomas reached for her hand. That day at the market, you gave me something no amount of money could buy. You gave me hope that good people still exist. Sophia looked down at their joined hands. I'm not good people, Thomas. I'm angry and hurt, and I feel like a fool. You're the best person I've ever met. And I'm asking, no, I'm begging, for a chance to prove that my feelings are real. How? How do I know this isn't just another game? Thomas turned toward the compound where his business associates waited. Then he looked back at Sophia and made his choice. Chief Amadi, he called out. Cancel my meetings. Cancel everything for the next month. Sir? I'm taking a leave of absence. From everything. He squeezed Sophia's hand. I want to go back to Lagos with you. I want to work in your market stall. I want you to teach me what honest labor feels like. Thomas, you can't be serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. He knelt down on one knee, right there in the dusty compound road. Sophia Chioma, will you give me a chance to earn your love honestly? Will you let me prove that some things matter more than money? The entire compound fell silent, waiting for her answer. Sophia looked down at the billionaire kneeling in the dirt, asking her, a simple market trader, for permission to love her. Get up, you foolish man, she said softly, tears streaming down her face. And yes. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, and comment at the comment section below.